Hello, my name is Jimmy, and this is the 2023 Lexus IS 500. It's basically the newer version of the ISF, but it's not a full-on F car like the ISF, the GSF, as well as the RCF. But you can't get the GSF anymore. But this is actually very special because underneath the hood, there's a 5-liter V8. And no one does a 5-liter V8 in a sports sedan anymore. In fact, this is one of 3 naturally aspirated V8 sedans you can buy in Canada. So let me go over everything you need to know, starting with the looks. On the front, the only difference between the 500 and the rest of the IS lineup is the hood bulge. You get a little bit of curvature on top to let you know that there's a little bit of difference under the hood. Spindle grille up front, LED headlamps. It's your typical Lexus IS look. On the side, well, we got these 19-inch NK wheels. They are lighter than the regular lineup 19-inch wheels. Then behind those, 4-pot calipers, 2-piece rotors, which is kind of cool. You do get an F Sport badging on the front, not a regular F badging like the ISF did. And then on the side, the only chrome piece that's on this vehicle, right here on the mirror, because surrounding the windows, that's all blacked out. You do get proximity door locks on the front, but unfortunately not on the rear. And then around the back, we do have a little bit of a lip spoiler. That's the standard one that you get on the other IS models. You got the full width LED light bar, love that piece. And then you got your quad stacked tailpipes down low. I mean, overall, it's a quite subtle kind of a design. It is just like a tier up from the IS 350. It's not its full, well, like the ISF that it was before. And I think that's totally fine. This is still a great looking vehicle, but it has definitely aged quite a bit, because if we look inside the trunk here, there's no power tailgate. It is manual, and you get these arms that do block, well, whatever kind of luggage you're going to put inside. In here, you got 10.8 cubic feet of space. I mean, it's sufficient, but there are bigger competitors out there. You do get a spare tire underneath the floor, and you can fold down the rear seats 60/40 as well. But let's move on into the cabin. All right, the back seats. I'm 5'11", and if I sit upright, I'm like right on the headliner. So if I slouch a little bit, it's not too bad. And the front seat is adjusted to me, and I get a little bit of legroom here. It's not too bad. But the only thing is, like, well, the seats, it's canted kind of towards the middle because the bolster that's on the side is actually quite large. I mean, it's good to hold you in if you're cornering really, really fast. But on everyday trips, I just feel like, well, if there's going to be 3 people in here, we're just going to be squished together a little bit. I don't get heated seats back here. Aren't any USB ports, but I do have vents, and that's really all I get. And of course, armrest with the integrated cup holders. But that's all you get. Is that enough? Well, you can let me know in the comment section down below. But if you're planning on fitting child seats in here, I am a child passenger safety technician. On the driver's side here, this is the Kleckling infant seat. As you can see, it does fit within the cabin. Putting the infant carrier into the cabin was a little tight, so depending on the infant carrier that you're using, it might become an issue. However, with the Ling here, because of the relatively low base, I didn't have too much of an issue here. In front of the Ling, I'm 5'11", and I do fit on the driver's seat with minimal issues. It was moved a little bit forward than my typical driving position, but not too bad. On the passenger side, this is a Kleck 5th, a rear-facing child seat here. It does fit in the cabin. I didn't have any issues here. The only thing I would say, because of the sloping roofline, it may be a little bit difficult to get your child in and out because you kind of have to duck and squeeze them a little bit. In front of that Fünf, I'm 5'11", as said, and I do fit in this cabin here. In terms of lower anchors, there's 1 set on the driver's side and 1 on the passenger side. They're behind these flaps here, and they're very easy to access behind them. Love those. And upper anchors, there's 3 behind the bench here, and well, those are very clearly labeled as well. So thank you, Toyota, for doing that, or I guess Lexus. But let's move up to the front seats. The front seats, as said, 5'11", headroom, legroom, very, very good. These seats are super supportive as well. The bolsters on the side, they hug you in nice and tight. They're not like Recaro's or M Sport seats, but they're, well, in terms of other Lexus models, these are really, really good. They're heated and cooled as well, so they give you all the options that you would want in a seat. The only kind of negative is the lumbar support. There's no top and bottom adjustment or up and down adjustment. There's only fore and aft. I mean, for some, it's going to be okay, and for others, that might become a deal breaker. In front of me, you got your typical Lexus steering wheel. You do have really nice stitching on the inside. F Sport logo on the bottom, and all the typical buttons you would expect, including Toyota's little toggle for your cruise control. Yes, this is the older style steering wheel, but hey, I still like it. It still works really well. Behind, the digital cluster is quite different than other manufacturers. You got your big tack in the center, and it reads, everything that you really would want. Depending on the drive mode, the cluster does change in terms of like the colors. And with the press of a button on the steering wheel, it shifts over to the side to give you more information on the left pane here. It's quite cool, really, to kind of have that movement. There's really no other manufacturers that do that. Is it necessary? Probably not, but it's cool. And that's something that, it's always good, right? Above, there's no heads-up display, which is fine, I guess. The cluster is beautiful enough for me to look down every now and then. In terms of the infotainment, this was moved forward a few years back here, and it just makes it so much easier because now, it's a full-on touchscreen. It's not the latest infotainment system from Lexus, and I actually kind of like that because the older style works quite well. It's still kind of clunky in terms of moving from menu to menu, and because it's more designed for this trackpad down here rather than the touchscreen, navigating with just touch is a little cumbersome, but it's okay, I think. It's, if you're in CarPlay most of the time, which I was, I really didn't have any problems with it. The only thing is you do have to plug it to a USB cable, no wireless option here. Clock in the center because it is an old school Lexus. And speaking of old school Lexus, a CD slot. Remember the last time you used one of those? I don't. But you do have all your climate control buttons right down here, all the buttons that you need for your heated seats, steering wheel, drive modes, everything is right here down in the center. It is a little complicated with the amount of buttons in here, but for most people, once you kind of get used to it, I think it's fine. The only kind of negative I would say about this interior is it is dated. And because it's dated, there are some plastics that it's not the best. For example, like up here, it is soft touch, but it just doesn't feel as quality as you might like. And some of the button placements are a little bit weird. For example, if you want to find the handbrake button, it's going to take you some time because it's above your knee here on the right-hand side. And because the steering wheel is right in front of it, you will never see that button. Unless someone points that out to you, you probably will never find it. But you probably won't ever use it. So I guess it's okay. But let's talk a little bit about the powertrain before we go for a drive. Underneath the hood, we get a glorious 5-liter V8. Codenamed the 2UR GSE, it makes 472 horsepower and 395 pound-feet of torque. Yes, that's 56 more horsepower than the ISF. Mated to that is the direct shift 8-speed automatic and rear-wheel drive. And what does all of that power mean? Well, it's slower than most of its competitors. But that doesn't matter because, listen to this. Screams all the way to the 7,300 RPM red line. That's what this V8's about. It has all of that power on the top of the rev range, and you're going to use all of that power. And because of that, your fuel consumption will suffer. But that's okay, because you got that glorious exhaust note, and you want to listen to it every single time you drive the vehicle. Sure, like I said, it's slower than most of its competitors, and it doesn't have that meaty torque in the mid-range that you find in those turbocharged 6 cylinders. Does it really matter? Well, that's up to you. You throw it into manual, you shift down a lot actually, because there's a lot of gears. Now I'm in second. Yeah, I'm not going to get tired of that, ever. That is an amazing exhaust note. It is kind of Lexus-ified because it is definitely quieter than, what this V8 can actually do. You can get aftermarket exhaust systems and make it sound a whole lot better if you want. But the way that it is, it's still very civilized. It's this baritone. It's just so good. Gotta love a V8 for that. You really do. And there's no artificial like tuning that makes pops and bangs. It's not any of that. This is an old school V8 sound. Yes, it's a glorious engine note. It really, really is. And that's the best part about this vehicle. I mean, if you think about the transmission, it is definitely a letdown. It's quite slow to upshift if you're on manual mode or even downshift. It's not the quickest by any means, but that's okay. You leave it on auto, it does what it needs to do. I'm gonna put it on auto now and I'm gonna drive away here and you're gonna hear that it's okay. Yeah, absolutely fine. Leave it on auto and you won't be that disappointed. In terms of like the ride and handling, it's very Lexus-like. So it's quite soft, to be very honest with you. It's actually quite soft. You throw it into a corner, yeah, it's still soft. Even in Sport Plus, with the adaptive suspension that it has on here, yes, it does firm it up a little bit compared to Comfort, but it's still quite soft. But it's good because you don't want something that like backbreaking for kind of everyday drives anyways. This is more than enough for, well, everyday normal use. And if you really want to take your IS 500 to track and, well, to have a little bit more enjoyment out of it, I'm sure, once again, the aftermarket world has you covered. So you can definitely do that. Overall, the IS 500 at $78,000 here in Canada, I think it's well worth it simply because it is the last of its kind. Now, if it was a turbocharged inline 6 or a turbocharged V6, that'll be a harder pill to swallow. Even though if it made the same horsepower, I just don't think that would be as special as what I currently have. This is just better in terms of just overall enjoyment. It has a special heart. It has, well, a lot of flaws. It really does. The architecture that it's on is older. The interior is definitely older. It doesn't have the best fuel economy. The 8-speed in this isn't as quick shifting. But because all of it, it's very old school, it works. It works all together as a package. And you know it's going to be reliable because everything in here has been tested like for years, so you don't have anything to worry about. And that's the best part about the IS 500. Let me know what your thoughts are. Do you think this is the one to choose? What about the M340 or maybe the C43 with its turbocharged 4-cylinder? That's kind of cool, but 4 less cylinder than this. Let me know in the comment section down below. In any case, thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you next time. Take care.